Hey again, people. I want to talk about this canine search here. A lot of people ask, can a dog be made to false response? How does a dog handler make his dog false response, etc. So I'm going to evaluate this dog's search on this vehicle and show you some things that I think the handlers are doing. Whether the handler is doing intentionally or because of lack of training, I think he's causing this response. So the doors are open. He lets the dog go in full leash to inspect, and that way the dog can pick up scent and just kind of sniff the car and do a quick cursory search. If there was large amounts, the odor would be coming out of here in one of these large openings. So he's letting the dog explore that on his own without telling him where to search and doing what we call a pattern. If I was going to search the rear of this car, I would start low. I would go in the car. I would come down low again. I would go high, low, high, low. That way, if there was anything in between here, then after I cleared this high, low, I would have him go in the car and I would do corners in the back and corners low. All the corners low, all the corners high. I want to get his nose in any area where odor could be coming out. And the way I describe odor is, you know, if you put a piece of fish in your refrigerator and you come back 2 minutes later, you may not smell the fish. But the next morning, you smell it strong. And if you leave it in for a week, everything in there smells like fish. It's called odor saturation, and that's what drugs do. The odor saturates the longer it's in there. So when you have rental cars and people moving short distances, you don't have time for odor saturation. So when you open the windows or open the trunk, all the odor dissipates and blows out. So it's harder for a dog to search. I would want all this closed for my dog to search it instead of having it open. But this is the way the handler showed up. So he puts the dog in here and he's searching. Lets the dog kind of go where he wants. Kind of circles the car. Bad place to do a search. I would have moved the car off the road so I could move me and my dog safely over here. There's nothing that says you can't move the car. I would have moved the car. They don't. They leave it on the road. So the handler walking around, he's doing a pattern, drops his leash. When you're doing your pattern, you want to keep moving. You see how this cop stops and stalls? He's stalling now because he opened the door and he let his dog go in the car. Now, depending on which way the wind is blowing, if the wind is blowing this way, blowing toward the highway, the dog would hit odor if there's something in the car. It would be being blown and forced out a crack or crevice over here, and the dog may hit it over here. If the wind is blowing from the traffic to the tree line, then the dog would not hit anything on this side of the car. So if I had to guess, the way the dog stalled and he opened that door, the wind is blowing toward the traffic. He lets the dog get in the car and he lets him satisfy his curiosity without putting him back on pattern. After he satisfies, he closes the door, lets him get in the back. Satisfies curiosity, he's not having him on pattern. This is more like called a free search. Maybe he'll reach in there and tap on an ashtray or underneath the seat. Just to guide the dog, I want you to smell here, I want you to smell there. Dog is finished, comes out, goes back to pattern, see that present? Search, opens his hand, look where my hand points. He's doing his search, he's letting the dog, when the dog is searching, he should not be moving the dog. But he should be keeping his feet moved. Notice when the dog is searching how he moves and moves and moves. In a minute, you're going to see him stall. And that's how you get a dog to cause a fake response, false response, or to get him to respond when you're trying to make him give a false response. And you actually have to do that in initial stages of training. So all handlers know how to do it. When you initially train your dog, you want to key him to stop and sit on the drugs. So everyone knows how to make their dog false respond. So he's searching back and forth, hitting the corners, crevices. Dog's in a small area on the highway, a lot of wind, a lot of cross drafts. Jumps out, doesn't really search the corner of the car here. Brings him right to this door. Jumps around. The dog's following his hands pretty well. That's the fourth time he's had him in the car. Had him over here, this side, this side. So he's been in the car 4 times now. if you the dog has jumped out the front door, and now he's jumped back in the door, and now he pulls him out, and now he's going to put him in the front door again, I think. So the longer you spend on something, the more likely you're going to get a false positive or false response, because the dog is like, man, I've already searched it, but he keeps bringing me back to it. So there must be something here I'm missing. I'll just go ahead and try to sit and see if I get my reward. And that's how you get a false response. So this could be from a handler doing a bad job, or it could be intentional. I want you to respond, so I'm going to bring you back to the same area 6 times until you respond. Now, can anybody say that's what this cop doing? I don't know. I'm not defending the cop. Could just be incompetent. I want you to watch him freeze here. Low, low, low. Dog goes low, low. Goes up on his own. See him moving? Seeing his continuous movement? See how he's moving and the dog's moving? Watch when the dog responds here, because the dog's going to respond on this pass. Watch the handler. He's not bending over. He's not ready to present a new target. He freezes and stands up. Lets the dog go. Freezes. Dog's like, hey, must be something here. He sits, gives a response. Walks away from the response. Goes back. And sits again, saying, hey, man, I've searched it 3 times. I thought he threw a reward there. Now he's presenting. He's going to bring it back. The dog's already responded twice. He goes back same area. The dog sits again. Is that a positive response or not? I can't say for sure. He gets a halfway here like I'm not sure. His butt's not on the ground. You would never reward a half response. My also beef is, if the dog responded, why didn't he get the reward? Why didn't you reward your dog? If you trust your dog and you're saying there's something in the car, which this cop does, if you're saying there's odor in the car, why didn't you reward your dog when he gave you a response? Worst thing you can do to a dog is give him a reward when there's not drugs, because then he will false respond all the time. So the fact that he didn't give him a reward, or it doesn't look like he gave him a reward, tells me he knows he false responded. But to the untrained person, you can tell a guy, hey, did you see that dog sit down? He just responded on your car. Really? Why didn't you give him his reward? Because he's supposed to get a reward when he responds. He's on a continuous reward schedule, right? But again, most people aren't going to know that. So can you make your dog sit? You can do it through incompetence. You can do it because you don't know it. It's unwilling. Or you can do it intentionally. I think this might have been a little bit of incompetence and intentionally. So everybody's always asking me that on dogs. That's my take. We'll end that there.